Howdy, everyone.
Hi.
This is. Hey, Claudia, how
Oh
are
my
you?
goodness.
Okay, so it
So
looks
cute.
like. So we are. This the I think the officially the second round or the second brainstorming for the leveling conversation. I sent included in the in one of the links was a link to the leveling wiki. I hope you are all able to access that. If you don't have it, let me know and I'll send it on over to you. It is it's kind of what the wiki is supposed to be. It's a collection of some thoughts. There's some of the older milestones are attached there, and then there's also some of I think they're almost tools that can help us with our conversation. So instead of having to deal with some hypotheticals, we can reference some of these documents and hopefully just have some cogent conversation. So there's a task document there. There's a skills document. There's a database document and some other concepts there. So if you don't have it, just do you need it? Just give me a physical. Yeah. If you need it, go like this. Okay. Everyone's got it.
Yes.
Um, So I think I don't know who was on the call yesterday, but Al and I were eavesdropping in on the micro macro conversation, and basically on that call, Bernstein and Co. are working on almost experimenting with tasks and working on how tasks are going to get processed through the platform. And one of the things they noticed that, and those that were on it, you saw that there's still, tasking isn't quite solid yet, and that's really the cornerstone, I think, for the things that we need to deal with regards to leveling, reputation, pricing, some other things. So, to help with this conversation, which is intimately tied to tasking, I created a what do I call it? It's a task matching document. So if y'all could go to, and I'm pointing over here because I have it on my other computer. If you could go to the leveling doc, I'm sorry, the leveling wiki, and then under skills matrix, crack open the task matching document. We can then use that as kind of a conversation. Um, I don't. I'm not sure I want to drive all of this. Any thoughts? Has anyone read any of this, or anyone have anything that they want to interject before I kind of go off the rails?
I read it. It looks great. Like I liked it. I like the idea that you have combined pricing and reputation and leveling. I guess they really work together. One question that I got was that in your procedure, you
Yeah.
had allowed the client, basically the requester, to see a list of eligible workers and
Yep.
have the opportunity to select a few that he or she wants. First, if the list of those that their skills matches this is too long, how is gonna be sorted? Like, will always the best will show up on the top, and then what happens to those? Because usually when you see the first, they select it and they don't go scroll down the page and find others. The
Yeah.
second is if there is a newcomer or somebody whose reputation is probably not that high, but they have gained some skills. I don't know still how skills are earned or how reputations are earned. Like, are they linked from the beginning, start from the beginning, or somebody that has certain certificates can jump to level 2, like we haven't figured it out yet, before the reputation gets to level 2. Then how it happens, like those with less reputation but higher skills can apply or can't because their reputation is not that high. Because if I was a client, I would rather go with somebody who has a higher reputation with minimum skill that is good for me.
Okay.
Okay, these are
All
the
good
questions.
questions. I can answer them, or we can engage in a little conversation. Anyone else want to chime in? Okay. So yeah, the matching with workers. If you look at kind of the criteria, yeah, I kind of envision that you would have those that are like a spot-on match, 100% match, and then it'll kind of Then you'll have the 90%, the 75, 50, et cetera, et cetera. I think where this problem gets solved is if the candidate or if the requester or the client only wants to see 5 candidates, then and there happens to be maybe 10 that are 100%, and possibly the messaging out to the client is, okay, yeah, here's 5, but it's 5 of 10 that are 100% match, and then so the client then could have that sort of luxury. I think what we like to do is kind of utilizing the milestone 0 concept, where you would engage a very small group to do some prototyping before you move on. I think that kind of mitigates having a whole pool to pull from. It does raise the question, though, that let's just say you're 100% match, and the client only wants to see 3 candidates, and you happen to be candidate number 4. I don't know how to fix that. There may be someone that are going to hold the short stick, or that's that as we work through this process and we start looking at error capturing or some exceptions, that those are some of the things that we could discuss. Okay. Skills versus reputation. I'm not as 100% sold on reputation as feedback from a client as being more important as skills and competency and being able to do the job. Those are the biases I'm bringing to the table, so I want to kind of disclose, because I know reputation online is a very important component of this mechanism. But at the end of the day, if we put a greater emphasis on skills, and we are looking at beginners, intermediates, and experts, we can market on out to our business or to our clients that we have expert quality folks, that we then also have an ability, and this is where we can maybe talk to Angela, because she has an idea of the NOx, that if we're focusing on skills, that's really what our workers are going to need or going to want. That's going to be our empathy back to them, is to help them build a skill profile, not focus on building reputation. But if our cornerstone is skills acquisition, and we really focus on that, we don't necessarily minimize reputation, because that is important. We do want to factor in that feedback. But I think at the end of the day, as a commerce, as that sort of transactional platform, skills, competency, and being able to execute and deliver on the job really should be our focal point. Reputation will come out of that.
And then I totally agree with that. That the skills are more important, should have more weight than reputation. However, with regards to the workers not being able to select the job or task, and it is all up to clients to choose them, I have a little bit of difficulty.
Yeah.
So that's just my
totally understand, and that's, again, this was a working model to engage. So here's some of the logic and some of the thought process, and it's not a right or a wrong, and it's maybe talking a little bit more about my biases. But if we have, for right or wrong, if in this sort of format there is, how to put it, my concern is to get into a bid, or where there's a bidding practice like I see on Odesk and some of the other platforms that devalue a skill, where there isn't price integrity, where there isn't an appropriate alignment of skills and task to pricing. I haven't done a huge research in it, but I see anecdotally, you see this disconnect there. And for a platform such as ourselves that's looking to really put our people at the cornerstone, we need to protect them in a certain way. Ironically enough, I think that may do this. That I think it may be counterintuitive, but I think at the end of the day, the way you set up a maximum and a minimum, it's aligned with a bunch of factors. I want to say maximum and minimum, that's price. You're going to create some consistency. It's going to be tied to a skill. It's going to be tied to their talents, and it's not as negotiable. So if you're going like on Odesk, I see all these folks that are claiming they want $100 an hour, but then if you look at their transactional history, $12 an hour, $25 an hour, $33 an hour. Well, why not have an expert who's generally an expert that out in the real world could get $40 or $50 an hour? Why not create a system that's going to get them a premium dollar because they can deliver on a skill?
I think ultimately that will be good because the requester will have more information coming to the table with what they're going to get, what product they're going to get. Because I know a lot of requesters might not be interested in a top level, giving the requester the option too of selecting someone who's got a level 1 basic. I don't really mind what the quality is. I just need to get this job done.
Yeah.
Paying only a little bit versus paying a lot and ultimately getting what you pay for, and everyone coming to the table with the knowledge that this is what's on offer and this is what you're going to get, and really making sure that kind of focus on skills. I mean, ultimately, if we shift from reputation to skills, we need to look at the skills assessment being solid, and that's something that we need to unpick further.
Yeah. And I think that's where your NoX tool is. I think it's Dynalicious. So to elaborate, Angela has been working on it. I don't want to speak for you, Angela. Why don't you share a little bit what NoX is? It's a little outside the scope, but I think it.
Well, I'd like to actually hear your take on it as well, and how it might kind of link up the system, if that's all right.
NoX, when it ties where I see it, it's an internal knowledge share. So it's peer-to-peer training, coaching, and mentoring, and there's a we can bring a level of formality to it. So instead of me teaching Angela something offhand, it would be we could probably create a structure or some curriculum, so there'd be a teaching of an actual class or something along those lines that could be measurable and create some sort of certification. But in the transaction, you get credits. So I teach Angela something, I then get credits that allow me to learn from someone else. Wow. That is, it takes our badging system and it throws it into our network and now creates that synergy, that collective, that soul, where we're all looking after each other, we're collaborating with each other, and it creates another layer of transactions. So instead of engaging on money, you are sharing your skills with others, they're sharing their skills with others, and so on and so forth. And it truly creates a learning community. And it reinforces the idea of a skill-based platform. So, we're constantly churning and creating more skills and providing, at the end of the day, better value out to our clients.
Good. And tied up with the NoX thing, there's kind of two major elements to this NoX idea, is that there are the learning communities and skills broken down into subsets, but also part of the offer would be to look at all kinds of training at learning and skills, informal and formal, that are on offer wherever, and having a system whereby those learning materials, learning resources are rated by users in a kind of TripAdvisor way. So kind of TripAdvisor for learning materials, and then linking, identifying subcategories of learning and skills, and linking this back to the platform, so that, sorry, I'm not wording this very well, but so that within each level a worker would have their skills identified, but always skills are changing. Knowledge is changing, and so within the kind of NoX platform, say there's kind of new movements in the development of Python, the categories get broken down even further. It would notify the crowdsourcing platform, the skills in the crowdsourcing platform. So say somebody's at level 5, but there's new developments in the field of Python learning, there's new subsets of learning. It would notify the level 5 worker that he needs to update his skills to be able to stay at a level 5. So it kind of deals with that kind of skills and knowledge evolution and keeping our workers.
Yes, Angela, I'm gonna make an analogy. I think that I was the other day. I was installing the Duolingo app in my phone, and I was doing a course in French, and I remember that every time that passes, I mean, it's an analogy. Every time that passes, if I don't update my skills, the badges go down, down, down. It will be something similar. I
Yeah,
mean, if
yeah.
something new comes, maybe your badges or whatever we use come down, 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 like to remind you that you have to be updated. Is that what you mean?
Who will
Absolutely.
decide
So
on what is relevant?
Was that
pardon?
Uwe?
Who will decide on what is relevant and what tools I must keep up to date?
Well, I
Okay,
think
that's
there's
interesting.
probably create a matrix or an algorithm, or if you look at the skills matrix that we created, that's going to be internal to our system. So any material changes to that, parenthetically can be compared, and if there's some changes then or additions, then that can trigger some of that interaction.
And
Ultimately,
especially
would go ahead.
And especially when a worker is inactive, like sometimes maybe people don't work for 6 months, then you definitely, or a year, let's say, a year can, especially in programming, can show that you may not be up to date.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I think the cold starting, so that cold starting and the re-engaging, having newbies, I think this learning platform over time can start addressing some of the very legitimate concerns. I think the cold starting challenge is still legitimate, but I think it's less so if you focus more on skills and reputation, because you're bringing something to the table, which is skills. Reputation you're going to earn over time. And
And
so,
ultimately, would want a culture of kind of lifelong learning. That would
yeah.
be fundamental to the platform. And it was asked that, who would decide these skills? Ultimately, it would be the community. The
Yes,
community
I
would
agree.
decide when the things are moving forward and identify new subsets of learning. So I can see how that would be easily built into it. It's the workers in the workers' favor to identify new subsets of learning. If somebody's really working hard, learning, has updated skills, they'll want the world to know about it and know that this skills need to be updated to kind of stay at this level. So I can see that the community would take care of it in a way. Do you think?
Yes, I agree. I imagine, for example, Google every year comes up with a new conference about the advancements in, I don't know, in programming or whatever. Everybody knows about it. I mean, and I think that would, as you said, it would be easy for the community of, for example, programmers or architects or whatever, just come up with the new advances in their fields. I think that because everybody knows, I mean, it's not like you go out and don't know. I mean, if you were in that field, you know.
yeah,
And
and
I think
every profession. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying I see this as kind of a way of bringing knowledge, information about knowledge and skills and learning that's out there available under an umbrella, and kind of having the community of users, of learners, rate the material and decide, how the skill subset should be further broken down, and kind of identify new developments within the fields, and bringing it kind of all under one platform, to make everyone aware ultimately of what kind of skills and resources and knowledge are out there, and who's doing what ultimately.
And so let's get this. We get the leveling module done. Then in our free time we can start looking at a learning module and some of the foundations for for a learning community. So I'd like to kind of guide us back to the leveling conversation, and really just start looking at the task matching conversation. And start using that as a baseline, because leveling unto itself just is we're going to spin our wheels. It needs context, and I think the task matching is our insertion point for this conversation. So I don't necessarily want us, or I don't think we necessarily need to validate task matching, but I think there is some value in seeing how this works. Then we can discuss the appropriate leveling approach. Yes, Angela. Sorry.
Yeah, just sorry, I'm raising my hand. I'm such a teacher. Oh my word. I've got a question about the term leveling. I don't know if it's been previously discussed. My understanding of the word leveling is that it is something that makes everyone absolutely equal. I don't know if it's connotations depending on the nuance, kind of American versus English or British or what, but basically leveling to me reminds me of people from the English Civil War who wanted to make everyone equal. So when we're talking about leveling someone, it's kind of making the level 5 a level 1 and making everyone the same. So I don't know if we want to have a discussion.
This is not a Cromwellian revolution over here. For us, it's aligning skills with a level.
Right.
So we can,
right. Do we want to maybe call it something like assessing or appraising or, well, not grading, because that's got negative connotations. But I wonder, does anyone else feel the same, or am I on a different page?
It's something to think about. As far as we're going to be a global platform, so I think the sensitivity to language, syntax, translation is critical. And so we should be putting that critical eye to all things. So if you're having if it's not resonating, or it's not maybe translating well into your cultural dispositions, say so. Let's figure it out now. Or
Angela, could you put an example of what you think that it could cause you trouble to understand the concept? Because I'm thinking about leveling, and for example, I don't know, I'm a designer, and I was trying to understand what you were saying. But for example, if I am a designer, maybe I know Photoshop or Corel or any other programs. But I think that in the designer field, you can have different directions. And for example, if I am a designer and only use Photoshop, I could definitely see how to use leveling on that direction. I mean, I'm level 2 Photoshop designer, I'm level 3, but I don't understand what's your confusion.
Oh, do you mean about identifying what level within each skill subset? Ultimately, I would say that the categories wouldn't be broken down into designer. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, designer. I think it would be, I am a designer, but I have level 1, 2, 3, 4 of Photoshop, and I have level 1, 2, 3, 4 of Illustrator, and I have, so it would be broken down into the actual skills and knowledge rather than the category of work. So I think it's a bit different. It's a bit of a shift, I think, there in thinking, because with a task a requester puts, they can identify, or a pre-populated template would identify that, say for web design, they need a person with skills in this skill subset, this skill subset, this skill subset, say HTML level 5, Python level 5, it would identify those, and then it would match those with the people that have those specific skill subsets. So rather than saying, I need a web designer, is it level 1, 2, 3, 4 web designer, it would break it down into the component parts, and then match workers depending on that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but I was thinking, could it be possible that in that example, like web designing, the requester would need more than one worker? Because, for example, if you are doing a web design, you need designers, you need back-end programmers and front-end programmers. I mean, I don't know if we are talking about that one person should fit that assignment, or there could be a lot of
not necessarily. I think that's where these pre-populated templates would come into play. I think for somebody, a requester who's really experienced and knows exactly how many they need with what skill subsets, great.
Okay.
Let them fill in what they want. But for somebody completely new to it, that's where I see this pre-populated kind of template driving the work forward. Say, if you need this done, you need to consider having, say, 5 people. And this person might need this skill subset. This person might need this skill subset. So it gives some information at the outset to feed. To drive the work forward. So I don't think it would just restrict it to one worker. I don't think we should do that at all. Ultimately, there's projects that need.
They should depend on the complexity of a task, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
In that context, how will the skill be determined with this system? How will the skill be measured for each worker?
that's something that's up for discussion. I think ultimately will be driven forward by the community. You know, we were talking before, somebody was talking before about, like, say, Photoshop. Do we need 5 levels for Photoshop? Maybe there's only 3. Or for Python, do we need 5 levels for logo design or for specific aspects of logo design? How many levels do we need? But that's something we need to take forward, I think, in this community.
And I think, you know, if you look at the skills matrix, I think there's, you know, when I created this with beginner, knowledgeable, and experts, and this was I used this as a template. Python was the technology, and these were, you know, the alignment was between task and skill. That you need these skills to perform this task, and you know, there are still many tasks that we could probably add into each level. That as historically we start building up more of a clientele that we'll be able to add to it. And then I think, you know, the skills that are required to do that should either be pro forma, or there's a review, or, you know, I think there's a variety of other community mechanisms. I think at the end of the day, the more we can automate, the better. So I think, you know, as far as updating, maintaining, and pressing forward, if there are, you know, if there's a technology or a tool or an algorithm that you think that we can or should build that can facilitate some of that alignment, then let's take that under consideration.
So when starting the platform, we won't have that many workers or that many requesters. I think we should focus on quality of control, making sure that every single task offered in the platform gets completed. So the best way to start on the platform, I think, in my opinion, will be to have every single task be crowdsourced to a group of people, a group of experts, not just one, but a group of experts, and ensuring that the job gets done, in my opinion. And that way we get the data we need to assess different amount of levels needed for that particular skill. And I don't know, the platform gets offers something new.
Definitely an approach we can take. You know, we're certainly going to.
Any ideas on where we get these requesters?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the new thing that we'll be offering will be quality of control. I mean, we ensure that the job gets done no matter what.
Yeah, I agreed, and it's how we can make that happen without completely putting a Band-Aid or having to put an extra process into the play that's not scalable. Because ultimately, we're going to have to take the training wheels off this. We're going to have to, you know, and maybe that process that we do at the very beginning will inform subsequent processes. You know, how do we maintain QA or the QC process? Again, the tasking, as I just kind of sketched out, was almost exclusively to help us integrate leveling, reputation, and pricing into the matrix. So I want us to kind of stay focused on that. That doesn't mean, though, that the QC piece isn't uber critical, and that's something we shouldn't focus on. I'd like to, though, try to have us move the needle a little bit on the leveling concept and how it plays into the task part. Okay.
Right.
So that being said, you know, if we were to look at some of these spitballed, you know, task matching processes, one, I mean, we can comment on the processes. Again, I just pulled them out of some conversations I've seen and whatnot. If we want to start stress testing and maybe reviewing the task processes, we can do that and see if there's any holes there. Or if we agree with this, then, you know, the third box in this process is what we need to do. Perhaps we should start talking about how we then can start executing on deliverables. So, however you all want to approach, we've got about 30 minutes. Do we want to go through and walk through some of the tasks and see if this is a pretty good process, or do you just want to say, regardless of what task matching process we follow, we're still going to need to deal with X, Y, and Z, which are in the what we need to do and can set up task tab. I'll leave it up to you guys. Or there's the unknown third option. Or fourth option. You know, I can see all of you.
I'm not sure which document is most important in your opinion to go over with. This is pretty much new, and I haven't had the privilege to look this over during my free time.
I'm sure you have a lot of free time too.
Which of these links would you consider to be most important to go over?
Right now, I mean, the one I've been referencing is the skills, or it's the task matching, and that's almost, you know, if we're going to look at root causes, you know, we've done some brainstorming up to this point, but it was missing context, and so the task process or the task matching is, I think, you know, it's the integration between the client and the platform, and depending on how that gets played out, it'll have either a huge, or, you know, it's how the data gets used where the task matching will have a big impact on us. Whether it's dynamic or it's a filter, it's still going to extract the same data that we're going to need to discuss, okay, which is skills matrix, the UI, making sure that we have all the data fields in place, etc., etc. So I don't know if you want to influence the way the task matching is being delivered, then we can go there. If not, let's just stay track on leveling and go right to then some deliverables.
Is there anything, can we look at kind of the task matching box that you put in there? Maybe everyone can have a look at it and then add some things. One thing that I found kind of in the process of going through putting a task on Freelancer and getting it done was a big thing for me is that for the task, the task and the work, I mean, for the requester and the worker, I think that we were not matched very well. I mean, obviously, I was the one that chose it, so it's my fault. But one main thing for the task is I wasn't bothered about if this was done like in 30 seconds. I found that was quite stressful for me because the worker clearly wanted to get the job done right now. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if we could include that into the task matching matrix. You know, a requester saying, I'm not actually too bothered when you get this done. I don't have time to do this all right now. To kind of better match workers with, because I know one that I posted the task I think 3 hours before the end of the Friday workday, and I think the worker had wanted to get that work done in that 3 hours before he went away for the weekend. But having some sort of kind of calendar of availability and kind of speed at which you want the task completed could be included in there to kind of clear up kind of expectations.
Yeah, that's an easy one to put in for sure. For sure. On the actual task matching, it's really interesting how it can occur. Kind of what, you know, in Trygve and I talking about it, what we were kind of envisioning was part of what makes it all so exciting is when we look at the process as a whole. By having a really good input transducer and by having a highly refined task that gets delivered and very specifics about who the right person is for that task, we get to a point where the matching on it, you know, puts eHarmony to shame. You know, so it's the idea that, you know, and Michael referred to this a little bit the other day in the micro macro, that if you have a level 5 designer who has very good reputation, you're fishing in a very fertile pool. So the chances that that person is going to produce something that's good for you is higher than necessarily if you're just looking at portfolios and it's something that someone has done before looks similar, right? Because ultimately it's about the person who can get the job done. And so what's interesting to me is that when you look at Trygve's document, all of those pieces, as we go through, feed into this really impressive, potentially matching process, so that a lot of what we're nervous about with milestone 0 kind of gets mitigated and solved by having this highly compatible matching mechanism. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that.
Okay, something, I don't know, like it came to my mind when you were talking about this, about an example that when I was doing a freelance editing for a website. And the interesting thing was that when they assigned the jobs, like we were matched for what we have to do based on our skill set. And then when we got the job, because I was allocated for this period of time, and I have defined on that platform that I have this amount of time, and that task requires, let's say I have said that I have 10 hours in 2 days. Every day I have 5 hours only. And that task required 12 hours to be done. So no, I was not included in any other match for other tasks, because why should I get the opportunity from other people? Let others have the chance, because I'm already loaded. And even if they send the task to me, I can't do it.
Yep.
So that is something that we probably can.
So one of the criteria is there is an eligibility piece, so that they're eligible, they have all the right skills, but that they're also available.
Yes.
Because I think we've mentioned occasionally, you know, a worker takes a vacation, maybe with a pre-existing relationship, but they're just not available because they're somewhere else. We should be proactive in letting, you know, clients know that that's the case. That, you know, that person has not ignoring you. The person has an out of office.
Right.
They're on vacation.
There was a calendar. There was a calendar, and we could assign that when we are unavailable. So that's aside from that, how many days, like in general, we could have.
How did you like using the calendar, Nikki? Was that a positive tool? Do you find that was it reinforced communication between?
I like communication, and I like to inform whoever is working with me always. Like, doesn't matter in real work or in online work. Yeah. So I used it. I always used it, no matter if I wanted to get 2 days, like not the weekend working, or like 2 weeks. Okay. And I try to do it as advanced as I can, but sometimes, of course, I have to do 1 day notice, and there wasn't any other choice. But I enjoyed it. Like, I was happy that they have that option.
Okay. What is the best conduit then for communicating with clients? Is it offline, online, calling? What was the best way you found to?
Online.
It is online.
Yes.
And did you find synchronous or asynchronous best, or did it really matter to you?
Talk about the process.
It didn't matter for me, as long as not within a day. Usually I got my responses, so it wasn't that bad, and it was good enough for me.
Also,
because I usually didn't accept the tasks that were for days. Like, I wanted the task to be like every 3 days. That's why 1 day was good enough for me.
Right. One worker I talked to on Freelancer mentioned that something with this. I mean, Freelancer sends notifications when messages appear, and you can hear them. They're quite loud, actually. My kids all say, "Oh, you've got a message," so you know it's loud enough. But he mentioned that sometimes he did miss these notifications, so to have kind of a texting service as well integrated, or maybe a Google alarm integrated as well. Maybe.
Yep, that's an easy feature probably also.
So then, if everyone's kind of comfortable with tasking, with the task matching, I'd like to encourage us to continue to look at it, poke some holes in it, see what works, what doesn't, and potentially offer that up to the dev team as a solution. Because from the micro macro conversation, there's still some so that being said, you know, on some of these other sites, Odesk, even Mturk, you know, and I want to align this to some of the tasks that we need to deliver. One is defining the categories. How many categories should we have? You know, coding, design, marketing, surveys, academic. You know, should we have 1,000? Should we have 5, 30? Want to kind of spitball that a little bit, because it does, you know, it helps galvanize thought. It helps then guide folks through the task matching process, and it has obviously some impact on how we can manage and align clients. And then the next step, developing a skills matrix. You guys saw the one that I did for Python. Conceivably, we're going to need to do that for every skill we have. a designer, a Python developer, a survey taker, a marketer, to have that level of detail and that granularity is critical, regardless of what task matching we do, to now bring some robustness and some definition to skills, and skills as it relates to leveling, and then ultimately how skills to level relates to price. Because what you do, we're going to put a price on it. So those are really the two things I like for us to kind of figure out, get some numbers and get some thoughts so we can start moving forward on actually generating some content. Because that's a very manual process. I don't think there's any other way around it.
What about machine learning algorithms to learn from past worker performance?
I think Neil came and left. I think there's a machine learning AI component that's going to get folded into the matrix. It's going to be the next iteration. Right now, I think Neil's got 5 or 6 developers to build this whole platform. So I think right now resources are being allocated to being able to build the full stack. Once it's done, once we have an enterprise system in play, then I think we can start iterating out some deeper functionality.
Okay.
But totally agree that is, and I think that is part of the conceptual thinking. But that addresses the big concern about this is scalability. So, how scalable, how accurate, and how quickly we can deliver on this. So does anyone have some thoughts on how many categories we should break down?
I think my thought is that it's down to the community of people with the skills. I mean, ultimately, I can see how kind of, my idea of having an KnowX, or the learning and skills platform, where people identify themselves what the skills are and what the different levels are in them, might be the way forward. But I know we can't build that platform before we build this one. So I think I think getting groups of people together to identify. I mean, say for example, Python people deciding what the levels should be, if there should be 5 levels or 2 levels, and what the subset should be.
Yeah, and I think we can facilitate that conversation by collecting the raw data. Okay, this is data that's going to need to be collected anyway. So to present this skill matrix to Neil and the engineering folks, they're better suited now to say, okay, yeah, T, you're spot on, great, we need 3, or nah, give us another one, give us some more. But we need to start generating content to facilitate the conversation, because the people we need to be engaged are doing a bunch of other things right now. So from a higher level, should we be looking at a design bucket, a coding bucket, a marketing bucket, a survey bucket, an academic bucket, et cetera, et cetera?
Yes, try, I guess, for the beginning to have it like a bigger scope. We don't want to go very deep, because as you mentioned, if we go very deep, it can end up 1,000 categories, and we cannot accommodate that right now. Exactly.
So Nikki, what put your requester hat on. You want to be able to have some real quick processing. We looking at 6 buckets then?
More than that.
Okay.
Like about. It depends. Like if I am looking for a programmer, then 5 to 10 should be good enough. But if anyone knows which category they are coming in, so but if I am a marketer, or if I am a editor, probably 2 or 3 is good enough. So in overall, I would say 20 should be covering most of that.
Okay, so go 20 deep. So what I was just kind of so you mentioned editing. We've got marketing. We're going to have, let's just say coding or engineering or development.
Design.
Surveys, academia. And then underneath, we'd have, obviously in coding, you have Java, you have Python, you'll have C++, you'll have C#, you'll have .NET, boom. Then in editing, what are we going to have there?
Editing, okay, editing could be like picture editing or text editing. And then text editing would be scientific text or like novels or things like that. Is it a short scientific paper or is it a long novel book? So basically.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So in the design space, what sort of skills, is it functional? Is it like, graphic designer, visual designer?
Software designer, hardware designer, all of these.
Okay, so that's a good distinction there. So when I see design, I'm just thinking more, pardon expression, the artsy-fartsy. And that a software designer would fall under that coding, engineering, development bucket.
Yes.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So again, to get back to designing, are we looking then at, can someone fire off either some skills or tasks that would fall under that bucket? Because you have obviously.
Why are we building an ontology again? Sorry.
I'm sorry, bro. What was that?
What are these buckets about?
Oh, well, so you need to have that higher level just to kind of constate. So we'll have a design bucket, and then all the design skills and tasks under there. You'll have a coding, engineering, developer where you'll have all the, you'll have Python, C#, C++ underneath there.
So an ontology, like a graph of relationships, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. It's to give taking things up a level to help then folks, primarily the requesters, find, okay, this is a design project that I have, and then they'll see all the it'll filter down.
Awesome.
And as we're thinking about these categories, it's worth thinking about the both kind of macro tasks and micro tasks as we're developing these, because it might be that they're all the same, but it might be that some we're missing because we're not considering all the kinds of macro tasks.
Yeah, and I think that macro tasking takes care of itself. I think, Angela, I think when hearing you and Michael talk yesterday about micro and macro tasking, I thought we got kind of hung up on that a little bit because, what's actually the definition of a micro and macro task? Because I think you all picked a design topic that is firmly entrenched right in the middle. That it is, it's a very sophisticated, complicated task, but it's technically a micro task. But it's a hefty one. So right now, I think the micro-macro piece, I think that's going to play itself out as we put in more of these processes. I think that gives us some more context to start actually talking about, milestone 0, which I think if we do it right, freaking awesome. The distinction between micro and macro tasking, that's what the industry is talking about right now, micro versus macro. We haven't been shaped by the market up to this point. What if this, there is no such thing as micro or macro tasking? Why not? I still, in doing what I've been trying to put all this together, I haven't seen a differentiator yet. But that,
the only thing I can see that I've come across is with some of the macro tasks is breaking them down into parts. I've been working on that a bit, and if anyone else has a bit of time to have a look at macro tasks, the most popular macro tasks on these various platforms, just to look at kind of the component parts you could break them down into to identify milestone 0, milestone 1, and maybe milestone 2, it would be really useful, because I think there's quite a few macro tasks that it's proving a bit tricky.
And so maybe as we drill down then into some of these groups, because this is the other point, it's like, let's talk about a macro task. And I think this will then give us hopefully a foundation for us to run an experiment on Odesk, okay, or one of the other platforms to see how it works. That you have a project that's a macro task that ultimately gets broken down, and parts of it are in engineering, it's a coding piece, and part of it's design. How do you execute on that? It comes on 2 different buckets. How do you allocate the pieces? And so that's where I think tasking and leveling comes into play here. So back into the tasking piece, and it's something you want to do a deeper dive into, and when we reconvene on Monday, perhaps we can have some more conversation up to that point, but then we can start really focusing on that. So I got a graphic designer. Any other design skills or tasks that, are we looking at UI and UX? I would imagine those components, so wireframers. Would we put HTML and JavaScript folks in that bucket, or would they still fall under coding?
No, they better to fall under coding.
Yeah.
Coding, okay. So maybe then we break down coding. We also put in web design in that piece, or would web design?
Yes, I rather
Yes,
the
yes.
design, like anything that is to do with web design, even front end, go to the coding and software development, because that's what eventually requires. If it is graphic development, then it's graphic design and it's something else, which
Awesome.
requires Photoshop or other softwares.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So our Photoshoppers, you mentioned Corel, Photoshop. Are they, are you, is that a correlate to, being a Java developer? Like, yeah, I'm a Photoshop expert, or I do Dreamweaver, or I
No.
do.
No.
No,
Okay.
they shouldn't.
You'll
Okay.
find that there some people do, and I suppose if people are new to the system, it might be that they're just
Yes.
Photoshop or just Illustrator.
Maybe, yes, a skill level 0.
Yeah, but if we think about onboarding newbies, both workers and requesters,
Yes.
it might be worth thinking of it in those terms. Not
Yes.
everyone has all the skills that might be needed for a design project.
Yes.
It might just, because
That's
I came
true.
across a couple on Freelancer that only did Illustrator. Yeah, I can only do Illustrator, but I do it really well. So it's worth thinking about that.
Like I do myself, like many Photoshop stuff for myself that I want to do, but I never consider that myself as a Photoshop expert. Like, no way. Like, I don't accept anything front end for Photoshop, like anything front end to do with design, because I know I am not, the detail
It's
expert.
probably it's interesting though, because you're probably more skilled than lots of people who are newbies. Just offer your skills.
Don't know.
Okay, so we got design. Coding, we've got a lot of that already taken care of. Editing, we have picture and text. If we come up with some more, please share with that. Then we have marketing surveys. Yeah.
Can I offer a suggestion here? All of these crowdsourcing platforms have kind of a skills taxonomy. So
Yeah.
why not just import this skills taxonomy and just like map it that
Sure.
way?
Yeah, we can do that.
I say that, but who's got all the spare time to go through each of the crowdsourcing platforms? Anyone?
Well, I say we just do it, So I will. So let me go through and build that component and run it by you guys and have you review it and feel comfortable with it. Add it, make sure it's as detailed, and then let's highlight then the top 5 or 6 job or skill then that we'll do a skill matrix for. Okay, so then we at least have some content then that Neil can start populating. So for each group we've got a baseline. Okay, and then hopefully we can farm this out. People can start raising their hands and start building skills matrix in the area that they're comfortable with. Okay, I think that would be very helpful. It takes a couple hours to build them. I do them all the time. I'm a recruiter in the real world, so this is just what I do. So I can tackle a lot of the technical ones, but if we get some help on the design piece, the editing, marketing, some of the other ones, I think that'll be really, really helpful. And then we can figure out a way to audit, edit, vet it, and get them ready to roll. Okay. So by this time next week, or before the end of next week, we've got a high level and we've got a skills matrix for, let's say, 20, 25 jobs. Okay. I think that's a big task. If we can get that going, then I think we can kind of roll with that. Is that, I'm sure y'all didn't think you were signing up for work, but is that something we can kind of commit to as part of this process to being able to start generating some of that content?
Yes.
Sure.
I'm trying to go to the engineering part more because I found that they have limited number of people, and I'm trying to cope with my fear of Django and all those that they have, because I've never used them. I've used other stuff. But I want to be involved in this, so I will try to commit myself.
Hey, and don't be intimidated. The cats over there they're big brain folks, no doubt, but they are very accommodating. So don't be intimidated because they need the help, they want the help, and they will take the extra steps to guide through. Just be honest and forthright about where you are and what you need. But they'll be more than happy to share some of their knowledge and expertise with you to get you up to speed. Okay?
Oh yes, they are very good. And I asked questions, and afterwards I felt so bad that was so silly question, but they are good.
We can be your support group then. So let's kind of do a little bit of that, and then if we have some free time, do we have any UI wireframing expertise in this group right here? Okay. Because some of the next things that we would need to look at, and I'd like to plant some seeds, is that if we're going to carry forth this project and take as much of a load off the engineering team as possible.
I could integrate anything you have in mind onto the platform. I'm helping Neil at the moment on some front-end issues.
Awesome.
So, yeah, if you have any ideas, if you need anything, I can just go right straight to the platform and show Neil my branch or my version of the platform.
Well, then, do you want to be our technical Sherpa? Because, I think some wireframing, or we're going to need to connect the dots between, obviously, the database and the data fields, and then ultimately this UI. Because I think the user experience can be somewhat, it's uncertain at this point. So I don't know if that is an area or an expertise that maybe as a group we can start thinking about. And it's not just poaching and seeing what other folks are doing. UX and UI is very much an expression of our. And so while it's easy to pick and choose, I would very much like for us to not take that easy route, but we don't have a whole lot of time. But if we can create this visual look that is an expression of who we are, that really comes through. That data visualization is pretty, it's powerful stuff. And so if as a group we can start thinking about these things now, there's no easy answer. It's not something we're going to think about right now or have a solution on. But if after we move through all this content piece, we're going to all be very much engaged in the process, I think it's a really good time for us to now say, okay, these are the data fields, this is the UI, how do we make it all work?
Yes, that's good.
Okay. So just kind of keep that in the back of your head, and let's just kind of stay focused on leveling. I guess to reiterate, if you guys have concepts and you have some thoughts on the task piece, stress test it. If you like it, don't like it, let's engage. Get on, let's figure it out. But over the next couple of days, let's be able to bring something to Neil or some recommendations that, hey, we think this works, that this is something you guys should consider. It will help the engineering team move the needle as well. Okay. So, as you notice, if some of the process and the philosophy and some of that stuff we can take off their hands, I think, they might end up buying us beers, which would be awesome. I need a beer right now. So, folks, I'm kind of double booked. We're at 10:30. I don't know. Hey, Safe, are you joining the paper writing, or are you joining the end of leveling? I'm talking to you. Safe, can you hear me?
Safe.
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 Oh, sorry. Hello.
Are you joining the end of the leveling
Hello?
conversation, or are you joining the paper writing brainstorm?
Hello.
Hello.
Do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. So are you joining the beginning of the paper writing brainstorming or the end of
No,
leveling?
leveraging. Leveraging. Sorry, I thought it was at 7:30.
Oh, okay. So we're almost done. Actually, we are done because we got to do the paper writing is next.
Oh.
Oh. Okay. Well, hold on a second.
um,
Al delayed the paper writing until for another half an hour.
Leveling was so busy that I just delayed paper writing until 11 o'clock our time.
Thank
So,
you. Then
you guys have
Is it not okay for you guys, or is it too late?
What's that, Safe?
Is it not too late for you guys? Thank you.
No, it's never too late.
We're always up. It's
Yeah.
okay.
You don't sleep. Kind of part vampire. Okay, so to summarize then, folks, we're gonna work on. I'm gonna go out into the world and find the big buckets. I am gonna collect all that. I'm gonna share it with you guys. We'll then you guys have given me some good insight as to some of the specifics, so I will throw those in. We'll then all agree that, yeah, we've got a good critical mass of some of the important skills. Hopefully that'll be easier for you guys to error capture or identify, we have some gaps somewhere along the line. And then we'll, as a group, identify 20, 25, however we need to do of skills that we need to do a skills match on. And so with the understanding that before the 4th of July weekend, we'll have a skills matrix for 2025 jobs. As we're doing this, we're going to think a little bit about tasking, and then ultimately the data fields and the UI component. Because as we're getting more and more into it, I think as we're owning more and more of the process, we can start branching out a little bit. And since now we have a technologist in our midst, Uwe can crank it out for us, so that's kind of awesome. That's about it. Great participation. You guys got more you want to add? Are we missing anything? Is there anything out there that we're not addressing at this point?
Me and Jarell were working on like some leveraging a little bit. Maybe I'll watch then what you guys discussed, and I would love to get some feedback on like design. I was also discussing with Claudia a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Cool. Yeah, the more the merrier. Though at a certain point, we're gonna have to commit to a philosophy that is that's implementable, scalable, and that is it's respectful to the trust power dynamic. And I think I don't think we're that far off. So if there's nothing more to add, then I'll do a quick summary on all this fun stuff. Oh, hi. I'll do a quick summary. We'll share this on out. The wiki. Add to it. You have ideas. Maybe a milestone that you had done that isn't on there. Attach it. A good read, an article, some stuff. Maybe you have some UI stuff you want to put on there, or some brainstorming pieces. Let's try to populate that wiki as much as possible. It's a good one-stop resource, and it can keep it all consolidated. So if you all don't mind, I would like to encourage us utilizing that, if you guys are okay with that.
That sounds good. I just don't have access, and I have asked already Geza to. I don't know what's wrong. I have login to Wiki, but I can't access the Wiki on crowd research. So.
Access denied.
Yeah. So as soon as I get it fixed, I will.
You have an outstanding beer tab, so that's what that's all about. If you could reach on out, I think Rajan has a pretty good handle on troubleshooting those. So if there is,
he told me to tell Geza. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right. I just pinged him, so hopefully I will get an answer by tomorrow.
Cool. No, if there's some challenges there, let us know. Otherwise, I think we've got a pretty good plan, and we got the tools, the technique, and we got the talent here to do this. So I'm very excited. So if there's nothing else, it's just me talking at this point. We can shut this puppy down.
Thank you guys a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry I won't be able to join for the paper writing. I have to go finish other stuff.
You have to? Okay.
I'm gonna change
spots.
spots.
She's so cute.
And I'll be there.
Okay,
Thank
cool.
you guys for this meeting.
Thank you. Hey, are you on Slack?
Me?
Am I? Oh, who?
Uwe.
I'll be off in a few moments.
Yeah, but normally, because I notice you're not on all the time. So what?
No, I'm working full-time job, so yeah.
We all are. I'll just drop some stuff then into your Slack account. So just because I want to follow up on some of your technical prowess and how maybe we could connect with Neil and how we can leverage you to do some OpGov stuff, rapid prototype style. It's a little out of my depth right now, but if we can all coordinate that might be very, very helpful.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
Yeah, awesome, cool. To one and all, thank you very, very much. Have a happy Thursday, and we'll talk to you all sooner rather than later.
Bye.
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 Thanks, guys. Ciao, bye.